But, you know, and then I can say, well, have you, you know, you like this? Do you know where he sampled this background music from? Or do you know where this came from? And then I'll give them another track to listen to. And so every now and then you'll get to see them sort of open their minds a little bit. So that's why I say I think it's the responsibility of everyone who knows. So that doesn't necessarily just mean parents. That means, you know, older siblings. That means, you know, classmates. Anybody who knows. I think it's a shared responsibility when it comes to creating an impact. Absolutely.
Okay. I want to just add to it a little bit. I think what Dr. NiiLampti has said, and I never called it that in my life. But I do know, I've known Nyaka for a while, and I just want to resonate with what she's saying because I think she knows very well being in tune. I just want to say something very short because what she was saying impacted me in a way that it brought this to my mind, is that the music, the danger of the music, and especially the danger of the music in the form of hip-hop, is not so much the built-in or intrinsic capitalist part of it that says buy everything, you know, dance all night or whatever. The more long-lasting effect of the damages that hip-hop is about, and can we reverse that, and is that you were saying, and what job is the parent, and something that even parents can't control, is what happens to is the psychological effects of it, even more than, you know, what we want to get out of it, or how it aims the direction of our journey in life, and particularly, I got to say, and just quickly get out of it because I know we got a great panel, is that I think about young women, and I think of young women more than anything because of like the super sexualized nature of hip hop, even more because I mean we can talk about, you know, the machismo of having stuff, but the thing that you know, one of the major tenets, you know, what it boils down to, I mean, you know, Jay-Z said money, cash, hoes, but you got the money and the cash, but then the things, the assault comes on the women totally, you know, you got money, cash, and then it's hoes, you know what I mean, and it's all out, you know, and you know, young women I talk to are prostituted from a young age. We had taught prostitution before we're even able to understand what sexuality is, you know, more about what prostitution is, and really from a very young age, my daughters buy dolls that you know, resemble nothing like their image and their own image. If they try to actualize their real images in the world, anywhere that even where hip hop is related to it, and hip hop is related to the doll as well as the music and the program, the assault happens where they're not able to match that up, and from an early age, then you got a problem. And so I think that's a really one of the major problems in the music. You know,
it's very. I wanted to add on because, like the great doctor just said, one thing about it is, and she brought up the MC Light thing. And that really, what M just said, it brought that to my mind too. Like, the women it's torture for the women. And so when you look at MC Light, like think about MC Light, like the things that she was bringing to the rap, like she was maybe possibly top 5 rappers at that time, like woman, man, whatever. She was probably top 5, like. So her level of skills in terms of, you know, that being great for a woman role model, it was impeccable. Now I'm talking about what she was actually talking about. You know what I mean? Paper thin, what you say is just paper thin, in one ear and right out the other. You know, her ability to not only tap into what was currently going on, but to be socially engaging, to offer another resolve to women who didn't even know women could get down that night. We didn't even know. We was like, damn. I'm serious. We was all in it. We was like, Milk wrote those rhymes. My brother name was Milk, who was a big rapper too. He was like, oh, he wrote those rhymes, but she was nicer than him. So it was like, well, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So if you take that and you compare that to, say, Nicki Minaj, and I just throw her name, not to throw the ball on Nicki because I brought her name up earlier. You know, but just roll over her face a couple of them. If you think about Nicki Minaj and you think about her music, right? Think about, which I still question if she writes herself. I still think it sounds just like the stuff Drake and the other boy writes in terms of linguistically. But you look at her image, you look at what she portrays, everything about her is actually fake. Like, I mean, everything is it's unfortunate, but it is. She's paid for everything about herself. And so she right now is the vocal point of hip-hop females. Right now, she's supposedly the nicest that the game offers. She's sold the most records and she's made the most bread. Her influence is the largest. I was just with this beautiful sister the other day, and we get into her car, and she's pumping Nicki Minaj. And I'm like, yo, what is going on with this Nicki Minaj stuff? And she's like, she don't look like Nicki Minaj, but she's into it. And why? It's because the commercial aspect of the music, what we was talking about before, who really owns the music, how it's really become manipulated, and how the kids is getting exposed to Nicki Minaj with no titties, with no bra on. I mean, come on, how are we even doing that? It's, you know what I mean? So we have to take, like Nyaka said, we have to all be held accountable at this point. You know what I'm saying? If you know, it's on you to actively make a change and an effective impact, especially for the sake of the young women. Especially because the music ain't going nowhere. And I hate to even tell you, it may get even worse because the finances that's attached to hip hop has disastrously shifted in the last 5 years based on technology that's driven, and it's going to continue to be impactful things that happen to the music. So as the money loses its weight, its value, new forms of manipulation come on. We got to embrace this as viable members of our society. Your kids is going to love hip-hop. Why? Because everybody who got swag is involved in it. Like, it is like that. So embrace it, but you got to actively control what's going on, what's being heard, you know what I mean? So.
And I would just say, I mean, and the research also supports the idea of, you know, girls are having sex at a lot younger of an age. Girls are much more willing to engage in oral sex now than they did before. And they're also much more likely to engage in sex without relationships now than they were before. So again, when we see these are the images that we're seeing, these are the words that we're hearing. We think about self-esteem and who we are and how we define ourselves.
Doctor, let me ask you a question, and this is crazy, but I'm in the middle of this, I'm hearing you talking, I gotta ask you a question. Put yourself in the psyche of the mind.
You want to be a doctor is so weird.
You are. And I don't want to put Nicki Minaj under the bus anymore, but let me ask you a question. Get yourself in the mind of Nicki Minaj and think to yourself, a person who's trying to aspire to have their music heard, and they have artists around them. She's signed to a record label where probably one of the most popular songs that they put out was I Want to Have Sex with Every Girl in the World. This was one of the most popular songs that they produced, and yet she's the one female member of the group who has to hold her mentality together to go in there amongst those men, even though she knows it's repulsive that they want to have sex with every woman in the world, and this is what the song is about. And she has to say, yes, I'm down with this team, and I'm the woman. And tell me about the psyche. What is the psyche? What does that do to the psyche of young women? And her, she's a mental warrior.
And I really try not to. I try not to call separate people out. I try not to. But the role of an adolescent is to figure out who you are. I mean, that's the development that happens in adolescence. Role confusion, identity versus role confusion. So when this is the image that I'm seeing, and I'm watching someone else who's up there who's saying, I'm okay with this, right. And women, as a woman, I'm okay with this, right. Then girls are seeing that and saying, oh, I guess it's okay to be okay with that. And if I'm okay with that, then maybe I can get to that point. So it's extremely confusing. I work with, I've got a handful of 15-year-olds who are pregnant. And and I know that happens all the time, sure, but their ability at this point now to take responsibility and accountability, it's so different than it would have been even 5 years ago. So, and we know that the media has a big role to play in that. Not just hip hop, but media as a whole, but hip hop plays a big role in it as well. And that's happening because hip hop now is it's cross-cultural. So now it's not just girls of color, but girls of color are disproportionately attractive. So, anyway.
So I'm hearing what you're saying then. So if the media is really responsible for this, right? And the airwaves, how many people listen to hip hop radio, commercial radio, whether it's here in New York, Hot 97, Power 105? Okay. Now if that's where if people, regardless of age, if that's where they're hearing the music, then that's why I asked the question, what are the chances of really turning this around? Because you have artists like the ones here on this panel, and it's very difficult for them to get exposure on commercial radio. So how do you actually turn this around? I mean, the trend is very clear where this is going. As you said, as everyone said, it's getting worse.
I think you got to ask the question, you said if the media is responsible, but I got to ask the question, is media responsible? Is the media responsible?
I would ask these guys, like, when you see kids, like, how do you reach them? Because obviously you do.
We have to be responsible. We have to be responsible. Like you said, this artist, Vill, we can't want him to be played on Hot 97. We have to not accept the standard and the format of Hot 97. We have to say this is disproportionate to the voices in our community. Hey, there's people out here who talking about stuff. You want to have a radio station, it should play stuff that the people are talking about all across the board. Yeah, we can dance, we can talk about sex, we can talk about this. We also want to talk about a lot of this stuff too. That's what it should be about. So instead of us saying to Hot 97, please change, we got to be the people that says, well, we demand this is what we will have. We want, and that can go away. You know, that can go away. And I think that's what, other than that, I mean, media is effective. It's the right arm, the arm of the state, of the government. I'm not trying to like say, you know, disqualify the effect of the media. I just have to say our relationship to it can't be the victim from it for any longer. We have to be able to know when to shut it down, turn it off, and create media for ourselves. And then there you have it. You know what I'm saying? I think we got to grab it by home.
Okay.
Sure, I'm gonna ask though, you should.
That's what I'm saying. I'd like to get on that question because I think that, in addition to what everyone said, I think a part of it also is just, you know, what are we asking for from a CD produced by the companies, the transnational conglomerates that we just spoke about in the earlier part of the session. I think that one of the key things we got to remember in the time of Occupy that we're in right now, that hip hop started off as an occupation of the park. And I think if we want this to be our tool, if we want this to be our weapon again, which I think it is, if this is our culture, I think in general, art is like expresses the highest aspirations of humanity. So when you talk about something that was developed by the Black and Latino community of New York City, we're talking about the have-nots in the belly of the beast.
So before you continue, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can you just go into that in a little more detail? Occupation of the park, the origin.
Okay, so I'm talking about the block party. I think the block party. This is where it all starts off at. So I mean, I definitely want us to go and have a march at Hot 97, demanding that these conversations we're talking about and the music that these brothers produce and sisters produce up on that radio. But I want us to be coming from a barbecue at the park. I mean, I think that it's gonna be unplugged too. We have to have this is an organic thing. This is our creation. Hip hop was an organic creation of the children of the children of people who made jazz, R&B in schools that no longer had art programs, in schools that were being dismantled. And we said, you know what? I'm gonna turn this bucket upside down and make a beat. And you know what I'm saying? And the other one's gonna spit their poetry, and that was the art form that the whole world could gravitate to, because inside the belly of the beast, inside the island of Wall Street, and the island next to it called the Bronx, or the mainland next to it called the Bronx, that these have-nots were able to speak kind of the most advanced visions of what freedom is and what power is. And if you look at it, in New York City, where Hot 97 and Power 105 control the airways, we have one picture of what hip hop is, but I'm sure that these brothers can talk to you about what their experience is when they go abroad. And the world is still, the echo is still being heard of independent hip hop. And I think that's what, I think that right now we're in a stage where there has to be a future of what started off, what was continued at Wall Street has to be, the only way it can be sustained and institutionalized is it comes back into our community. Because that's where it came from. So I think it's going to be this summer we need to do some block parties.
All right, so I want to share a discussion in a second to sort of the international influence of hip hop. Before I do that, we've been talking about radio and Hot 97 and Power 105 specifically. Now I know Vill, he just had a recent single. He's had a single called Get Fresh that has just gotten a little commercial playing on Power 105, and you just recently had a meeting at Hot 97, the program director, right? And also at another commercial radio station, Hot 93.7 in Connecticut, giving you feedback on your music. What do you take from that? What do you get from that as far as what you're trying to do with your music and what they're telling you you need to do with your music to be able to get commercial exposure?
I mean, to be honest, what I took from that meeting was I was sitting in the room with a bunch of cats that maybe at one point knew what this, remember what this was about. You know what I'm saying? Cats said this is their job now, so they got bosses too. You know what I'm saying? And he even alluded to that. The program director, not at 97, but out in Connecticut, but he pretty much alluded to that he's got bosses too. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see the bosses there, but whatever. They're telling me, what people want or what they want to hear, and it's funny because I'm looking at them. I probably know more than they do because I'm in the clubs. I'm in, you know what I'm saying? I'm in the hood. I'm out there. And these cats, you know what I'm saying? Got these shirts tucked in. I'm not into this or whatever, but it's just funny. I'm looking, I'm like, really? You know what the hell's going on? I'm just there like, yeah. Seeing the mouth move, but not hearing the words coming out after a while. It's typical. It's not nothing new. You know what I'm saying? I got a bunch of cats behind the chair or whatever telling me what it should be, but I'm looking at them like, nah, you don't know what's up.
So they're basically telling you so that your music is not commercial enough for what they're looking for?
Yeah, and I mean, what they didn't have to say, they didn't really have to tell me nothing. What said it all was, there was a couple other artists there, you know what I'm saying? It's a white kid and there was another cat from Philly. And based on their reception of their music, which was more up to par, what you hear now, you know what I'm saying, as far as the sound, all that mindless, shake your ass, get drunk, get hoes, get money, whatever. That shit, they just breaking your fucking neck to it, excuse my language, bro. You know what I'm saying? That said it all to me. You know what I'm saying? He like, giving them a big up, like, yeah, I could see people in the club already saying that, yeah, and it's mindless nonsense. You know what I mean? It's violence or, one cat sounded like DMX and Tyler. He was just all, had his shirt off, flexing, he's even performing, and everybody's getting hype off of it. He had a lot of energy. I'm not trying to,
And this is in a conference room for commercial radio station with the program director and their DJs and some of the other staff.
Based on the reception, just so the reaction we're giving him, that said it all. He didn't have to tell me nothing. You know what I mean? It was all hype. Yeah, they caught the babies. Like Vince Mark used to say back in the days, he got gathered. Yeah. So, they became like male groupies almost. Listen to me, I'm like, we got hype, but he sound like, X.2. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm like, but whatever. I'm already used to that mentality, so I didn't even try to combat it or, I just thought it was pointless. I didn't even know that's what I was headed there for, so I was kind of like just thrown off. I thought I was going for an interview, radio interview. Instead, it was kind of like me having to pitch myself and why I think my music should be on or whatever. So I kind of, I kind of already was, how can I say, turned off just by that. So by that, I just saw, a bunch of blind dudes, just like, a lot of these cats that sit behind the desk or the table, they're just looking for what their bosses want them to play, you know what I'm saying? Like, Umi would make reference to Clear Channel, you know what I'm saying? We already know this is control. Clear Channel owns 85% of the radio stations in the country, and almost the favorite DJs, none of them, I'm sorry, they got no power over what they play. They got certain playlists they got to buy to, because their bosses told them. So that just, how can I say, just it confirmed in my mind already what it was. Not that I needed that, I already knew it. But I just, that's what it was. If anything, it made me more defiant. It made me more angry. So I was not listening to these fake dudes. I was out there house in the suburbs or whatever, telling me what this shit should sound like, excuse my language. So that's what it did for me.
Okay.
I want to say something to that about Will, and also I'm glad that he let everybody in here in this music conference meeting. And I have to say that stepping back from that and deconstructing that, because I'm an artist who have been in that position so many times, that you know, I hated that artists have to submit our valued artwork to this system that crunches and chews it up and spits it out and devalues and doesn't honor and respect what we bring to the table, like your work. So we have to go through these degrading meetings that are really and truly exercises in futility, totally. It has nothing to do whether your song is played on the radio, whether you met with them or not. And when the reality is, they said their bosses are not in the room, their boss is the damn dollar. And at the end of the day, the reason why anything happens is because commercial only means for sale. That's all it means. And if you try to give me the lip that commercial music or on the radio music has a certain sound because there's a frequency there, that's a blood clot lie. And the reason why it is because there are people who have independently gone to the program directors of each one of these radio stations with bags and loads of money in order to ensure that their song are played over and over again. And this is what creates a hit, is that dollar. It has nothing to do with some duds sitting in the room telling you what they like and what they don't like. And that's, I think it's the most degrading thing to make an artist have to go through, is to think that our music needs to go through this process in order to be validated or make sense. And so some dudes sit back and say, I can do it better than that with a bag of money. And that's how you get people like Master P, who just basically made himself an artist who, and he had absolutely no talent. I mean, I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody who likes Master P. I just say he's not the greatest rapper in the world. But he made himself a multi-million-dollar hip-hop mogul based off the fact that he understood the business model, not because he knew how to make a hit record. He could have just said lolly lolly dotty. I mean, look what he said on the Ice Cream Man. I mean, it was kind of like stupid. It was stupid, you know, it wasn't clever at all, you know. But he you know. So you get my point, and that's what I think we have to deconstruct and demystify the music industry so that we can understand what those meetings actually are. They just exercising futility. They make us jump through hoops, flaming hoops for a circus, just so people can clap. It has nothing to do with nothing in the world at the end of the day. You know, the dollar is their boss. Capitalism runs a radio station. The radio station is controlled by the government. The government is a clear channel. It's clear what's going on here.
Thank you. No, that's deep. That's deep. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, we're going to shift the discussion in a second, but I want to open it up for a few minutes for questions. All right, get some interaction here. You guys have some questions? Yes.
I'm involved with the Occupy movement out in the West Coast, and
What part of West Coast?
Oakland, Occupy Oakland.
Oh, yeah.
Yay! We're really lucky to have Boots Riley with us. Yeah, he is such a dynamite guy.
Yeah.
But my question is, Russell Simmons has been involved with trying to build Occupy the Dream, I believe, and pushing the Occupy 99% with using ministers and religious figures. And so I just have a question. What do you all think of that, of his effort and of the, what is it, Reoccupy the Dream or something?
I have no problem with that, with Russell being able to, you know, transfer this idea, this medium, to be useful in all kinds of ways. However, in my immediate rebuttal, maybe I'll have to like kind of go over a little bit more in my mind, and I'll be quick. But I gotta say, let's keep it practical, man. Let's don't keep this. Let's don't make it abstract. Let's make practical things practical, what we really want. And I'm not saying ministers or people who are in the spiritual, occupying your dream. No, let's occupy like something real, like so we can have something real. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? We can occupy the dream. I'm with that later. Let's just and maybe I'll regret this. Maybe I'll think about this after. But I go immediately. That's what I did. You know what I mean?
All right, well, second, my brother here. When you talk about Russell Simmons, there's something that comes with that. When you study, because, you know, what's so important about the panel, even any situation, you know, if you don't do it, start doing it. But before we had to speak, you know, first we gave thanks, but then we gave our resume. And that's for a reason. You know, I tell them all the time, I just got a resume, I'm good. I don't even need to talk to you. Because I don't. I studied your resume, I saw your last 4 moves, and now I'm going to give a hypothesis, that's what they call it, and I'm going to jump to a conclusion, not an assumption, a conclusion. And so when it relates to Russell Simmons, you study his resume, you see the things that he's been a part of, even taking the backstory, because Esteban gave us the backstory of that grandiose Russell Simmons idea that we heard on the radio in the other spot. He gave us the backstory on it. It wasn't even his idea. Right. And so when you think about Russell Simmons and the things that he's been engaged with, he made $1 billion off of hip hop. Then he jumped into poetry, comedy. Everything is on the backs of something else. He's not an innovator. He's just not. He's a brilliant mind. So when you look at him and his resume, it already projects what it's really about. And 9 times out of 10, it's fine line economics. You know what I'm saying? Even this new shit he got out called a rush card or whatever, he says it's for the hood and da-da-da-da. Come on. So, you know, I would say that, like, and that's why I can say what he said, because we studied Russell's resume to a T. And I don't expect nothing from him. I'm gonna tell you the truth, nothing. And if he does come with something grateful, you know, cool. But I don't expect and I won't anticipate and I won't look for it. You know what I mean? If I see his name on something, 9 times out of 10, I'll say he probably got a good economic scheme going on and it's gonna bring him and his family some money.
Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, friends of mine in Boston who put on the John Coltrane Memorial Concert, they have big programs in the high schools.
Right.
And I'm wondering if, you know, as you were talking in the other session, I was thinking, this would be fabulous.
We're looking for a link and a manager to take us to those high schools. We're going to, I nominate an employee.
Yes.
No, we definitely need that. That's
Okay, we'll go here and then I'll come to you guys there. So let's go ahead. Okay.
Hi. So one of my struggles is that I work in the nonprofit industrial complex, right? And we make so much money for all of the white folks that are the EDs and the board, and they base so much of their work on music and on hip hop and using that to get our students to do what it is they want them to do. So my hugest struggle is how do I bring in this work, and I feel like I have to do PE for all of those folks to explain why I'm shutting off the radio or why I'm playing like Dead PREZ music or Khalid Kweli. And I wanted to know what's the work that's being done, or if it's being done, on how to educate folks in this generation, because I think that there is a lot of focus on youth, which is wonderful, but we're screwing them up ourselves by letting the radio stay on.
Right.
So I just want to...
No, because I'm trying to get to the crux of just the question of what you were saying. Now, how do you do the PE or the work that it takes to do to bring? Now, just make it a nutshell for me.
How do you do the PE with adults who grew up in the hip-hop era and who grew up when it began, who are adults now, are in charge?
Right.
To explain why it is Jay-Z should be turned off, or why some of the commercial hip-hop should be turned off and the actual hip-hop be on.
Well, I'm gonna start a little bit, and I'm gonna be real quick. And really, why I want to do it is because I kind of want to like say something about what I said about Russell Simmons. So my thing is, I don't want to judge that guy, and I don't want to hate that guy, but it is relative to this question as well, because he's those people that we have to compete with. I think the thing is that we've seen like Umi said, we've seen a history of opportunism. We've seen a history of hyper-capitalism, avaricious capitalism. I'm talking about breakneck kind of capitalism that has led artist contracts to the point where they're like the most, they're like the most cutthroat things that you can find is a contract for an artist. It has led the precedent so that when you talk about artists being signed in the game, like you literally like have to talk about like words like in perpetuity, like which like forever, or and like in our minds it's like signing your life away or your children's rights away. We often commonly use those terms when talking about the kind of contracts that Russell Simmons is responsible for bringing to the game. So I don't want to talk about hate. I don't want to speak in hate, and I think like I said, I don't want to let anybody walk away with that in an emotional way. I would say it is because of the resume that Umi is talking about, and it is because of the work that we've seen, and it is because of opportunism off the backs of the people who have done a long time with work about reforming education that Esteban was talking about, that he just so conveniently attached himself to it. And so then, and, you know, so when you talk about the so that's what I got to say about Russell. But the re-education of that in context to Russell is that when you see this legacy and this history and this resume of the work of the art that has driven us into this deep hole, I think it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to say, what's going to get us out of this? What music is going to get us out of this? We can't use the same music that got us into this to get us out of this. So then the responsibility is for the leadership not to slack off like Jay-Z and Kanye did about making Watch the Throne in a time where we're in crisis and they couldn't talk about anything in the world but Watch the Throne. But instead of doing that, you could invite the new opinion that says this music can be helpful. And that's why we shouldn't do that anymore, because we've done that for too long. And I think if you use that argument as the political education or the PE to those, like, look where we are and look what these people want to take us. Look what his song is about. Then it should be obvious why we need to use this as a tool. You know what I mean? Like, look where we are. And I mean, I think that's the grim reality is hip hop is not good for us. The hip hop that exists is not good for us. It's bad. It's awful. Many days I wake up and say I don't want to do it. I don't do this. I'd rather be talking with y'all. You know, so I think
real quick to add on what he was saying too. I don't know if he was at the other part of the panel in the bigger room, but M started the panel off with and it was funny because I was talking to Steve and I was like, yo, you should start the panel off by asking him this question. He was like, yo, he's a historian. I mean, this is what we're going to do, but I had no idea he was going to take it so far there, because when he introduced the entire panel to break down the definition of what hip hop is, he began with understanding the social context of the community that derived the entire shit. Right. The only reason why I came is because Cash was oppressed. We didn't have nothing else. Like so Esther was saying. So when you look at where it came from, and then not to keep quoting the doctor, but she was talking about the power of it. And so like when I was young, for instance, it was cool to wear these red, black, and green. Yeah. We call them African medallions. That's what we call them in the hood. Like, you got your African medallion. And like, it was crazy because like how Cass is wearing platinum and shit now, because that's what the rappers wear. Yeah. We was wearing African medallions. It was popular to wear the Malcolm X t-shirts in rap. So that's what all we was wearing. But it was the older generation that was like, what's that medallion really mean? Because they was tight at us for just picking it up and not understanding the true culture behind it. So then they was shitting on us, yo, you know what that means? That's red, black, and green. You know what the color stand for? You know? And so this engaging conversation came out of the bridge being gap. And
gap being bridge.
Gap being bridge. So I brought all that up to say, when you're explaining the context of the music right now, it has to start from there. And by them doing that, it made our discussion so much easier in terms of what we was trying to explain. We didn't have to start pitching. It's because this right here, this hip hop thing, is what gave the powerless power. It gave the voiceless voice. And from that, we had to let the world know our problems, what was going on in our communities, who was holding us down. And the same problems right now are existing because that voice got null and void, and they knew how powerful it was. Police had their damn feet on our neck, and they still got their feet on our neck. Look how many cats is dying in New York alone from the police, just from New York. Not even talk about Oakland and all these spots that, it's to the point now where that conversation, you gotta start it from the beginning, and then you gotta say, look at the dynamics and the effects of this. It's common sense. And if it's someone that's truly aligned with the art form, you ain't even gonna have to talk much. Because, you know what I mean? They gonna understand it, but you gotta start from a historical analysis. You gotta start from the beginning and let them know what it is.
And I don't think a lot of them even listen to the lyrics. So I mean, I think that it's just, oh, this is what all my students listen to. I know this is gonna move them, but to be able to say, let's sit down and listen to the lyrics in this.
Write them up.
Like, pull them up, you can pull them up online anywhere. And then have them take a look at
Well, I
that.
do that, I've done that with, like I work in a school with all young women of color, and I work in a dropout prevention program. So when we say what woman inspires you, we get a lot of Minaj. And I've said, so I've sat down with lyrics, and I've broken it down with them, and that works, and the students get it, and they love it. And what doesn't work is when I'm doing it with the adults. And that's my struggle. When the art director, who's literally a big black man, who's been there for a long time, is supporting our young people going into the commercial industry. And I'm on the other side saying, let's turn the radio off, let's change the music, or let's change the videos we're watching on YouTube. It's the adults that I'm having the problem with. It's they're the ones that don't get the historical context when I start with it.
Show some stats. I mean, connect those two things. Adults, they like numbers, they like concrete. Connect that. Okay, so let's look at Nicki Minaj. Now let's look at teenage pregnancy rates. Let's look at 16 and pregnant. Let's look at, STD rates.
Take back to the salt and pepper era.
Let's look at the stats and see if that helps to bridge the gap a little bit. But I'm in her.
Okay, good. So, all right. So I'm gonna work this way, and then I'm gonna come over to you folks. I haven't forgotten that side of the room, but I know this gentleman had his hand up for a while, and then I'm gonna work my way to you guys. So I'm just trying to keep it as fair as possible. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess the question will be at the end, but I think in '96 or '97 was when I had basically given up on the idea of hip hop. I saw what was happening in '88, '89. I was jumping up and down. I don't make a lot of differentiations when I think about what's bad for or what is evil, what is grimy. So I can easily lump corporatized anything into a very big category that I try to avoid in all of my life. A long time ago, education turned into something that felt grimy like that. A long time ago, working in a lot of our institutions, whether they be jails, social services, medical and the medical industry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'd say about 3.5 years ago, things got so bad out here that I had to make a decision to just say, fuck it. I can't, and as poor as I'll be, I have to just, I know that because of the structure of our society, there are people that are disproportionately affected, horribly affected, and all the laughing and the joking that's going on here. I volunteer in jails, I volunteer in drug and alcohol programs, I volunteer on the streets, I work there. And I know how bad hip hop is. And you could grade it and think about it in a million different ways, but I know in a very general way how bad hip hop is for our people. And as a matter of fact, it's like even disproportionately meaning that if you at what point do you just walk away and say that all I do is fight the corporate? That's what this Occupy movement is about. You're not on the fence anymore. You're either kind of in or you're out. At what point do you just say, fuck Russell Simmons, he's on that side? At what point do you say that anybody that profiteers is on that side? Whether it be Sony, whether it be universities that pay people to study the effects of. At what point do you just say, enough, and you make a break, and you come out here and you do it outside of the frame of education systems? Or what point for you, or whoever wants to answer that question, at what point do you say enough?
I'll try to be quick. I always do what I never do. I'll say that the thing that happens is, there's like this extreme, like with that, and I totally agree with you, and I want to applaud your analysis because you have to play it that hard in order for us to get real change. If we can't sit on the fence, you're exactly right. And the days of riding the fence are over. But once you declare the side, you have to, and at least in my analysis, and we can exchange ideas, people are affected by Obama. people are affected in ways that are endearing. Some people admire his characteristic and personal traits. Even though Obama is the scourge of the planet politically, he is he's part of the blood sucking of the world. He sits at the seat of Evil Incorporated. But what we're doing is if we throw Obama out, a lot of people who support Obama are saying, hey man, I like Obama, but you know what I mean? I think I want to do something positive, and I'm trying to work with that. It's like, so you've declared a side, but you don't want to alienate the people who also can be one to be in part of what we're doing. Because just because you
corporations aren't elected by people.
No,
So a political leader is not the same as somebody that works in the corporate system.
Let me be quick, and you're right, I understand. But people are not always able to differentiate between, you have, and you've made that in your life. You said, all things corporate, I avoid that. And like I said, I understand your analogy. But people aren't able to differentiate between that in all aspects of their life every single day when you got to choose what you support. I'm going to go get on the train, which is cool part of supporting the corporation, or I'm going to do something else. And still those people are winnable to this struggle. They're winnable to be able to say, one day, I'll be strong enough to be on your side, and we are totally, we can bring down the corporations or capitalism as a whole in one mighty fell swoop. But we're not able to do that today because the sway and the influence of imperialism and capitalism worldwide is strong as hell. So I turn my back, and I'm the only one. Well, you turn your back, and we're the only damn ones doing like this. And everybody else got to do what they got to do. So then we got to figure out how to do both. We got to figure out how to do both. And it's frustrating and hard as hell. But we got to, in my opinion, so that's in my quick way.
Anybody else want to address?
I mean, I know with me, I know you was asking at what point you turn your back on it. I mean, me, I can't remember when, but it was a while ago. But I mean, as far as hip hop, I mean, when you're an insider, you know what I mean, and you're in it, like Homie and M1, that PREZ, and you're trying to make moves, you know what I mean, you start beginning to recognize early this shit is controlled, motherfucker. But I think, as an MC, as a rapper, MC, when you begin doing it, I know I began doing it not because I had, aspirations to get rich off of it or get money or get women. I just loved the offering. I was just in love with the wordplay and just, the ability these MCs had to paint the picture with their words and say something strong and powerful and something that makes sense. So that, I began doing it just for that, you know what I mean? And, start getting better, just like almost every other MC, people around you, wow, you're doing good, you know what I mean? All of a sudden you're doing records, you're doing music for fun. All of a sudden, you want to pitch your record to the radio or whatever. So I mean, at one point, I don't think anybody gets into the hip hop game knowing how controlled it is. And once you start making moves and you start getting closer to the top and climbing that mountain, almost in anything. I don't want to just limit it to hip hop, anything in healthcare, any institution, every institution is corruption, and you're in there and you're like, damn, I know when I got here, this is going to be like that. You got this person over your shoulder telling you how you should teach these kids or what curriculum or what subject to teach them and how to do it. And I know because I got family, my mom's is a teacher, my sister's a teacher, I know people in healthcare and people that are passionate about what they do. A lot of nurses, they want to be nurses because they care about people and they want to, help heal them or whatever. But, it's a bureaucracy in place. There's always eyes on them. There's, unfortunately, most of the time, the wrong people are bosses. It's the same thing with music, with hip hop. You start getting closer, you start realizing, damn, like you was talking about Connecticut, High 97, like, damn, you got these clowns. They're you know what I'm saying? And, it's very discouraging. It makes you think that, it's hopeless. You know what I mean? But I think, it all comes back down to that passion, that love of what you're doing. And I think it begins with that. You know what I mean? Because, if you can't change yourself, forget about changing anybody around. So I think it begins with that. And I don't think it's something that can happen overnight. I believe, I know Steve kept asking, the professor if she thought there was a hope that it could be turned around. I believe so. I mean, I think it's already starting. I think people are really starting to open up their eyes, maybe not at the rate that we want them to, but I think it's starting to happen, you know, worldwide, globally. So that gives me, you know, I have to believe there's a chance, because otherwise, what the hell am I doing it for? You know what I'm saying? So I believe it, and I think, you know, hip hop's been here before. There's been similarities. I mean, I don't think it's as horrible as, you know, it wasn't as horrible as it is now. But there's been similarities. There's times early 90s where, you know, New York was nowhere to be found. You know what I'm saying? You had cats on the West Coast, Dre, Snoop Dogg, or whatever. They were promoting, you know, a questionable way of life. You know what I mean? And then, you know, some of the cats like J. Rule started coming up, and Hans, you know what I'm saying? People that kind of balanced it. So, I mean, I think it's been here before. It's not as bad, but I believe there's hope. But as far as, like, you know, at what point you turn your back on it or just say, fuck it, I've been there. I've been there. I mean, you can ask Steve, I don't remember when the fuck we sent something to Def Jam or whatever the fuck and said, yo, holla, you know, we ain't holler at nobody. We just did our thing and made our record, and we just try to promote it to the markets and to the people we felt, you know, we listen to our music and appreciate it. So, I mean, that's just me to answer your question. I mean, a long time ago, I turned my back on it. Now I'm on some shit, like, I'm gonna put my stuff out there. They feeling me, let them come at me, you know what I'm saying? Talk their funny business and keep it moving or whatever. So, I mean, that's where I'm at with that.
Okay, so we got a lot of hands, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, so let me go to this young man right here. He's had his hand up, and I'll get to all of you, I promise. That's why I wanted to open it up for questions early. We still got time to get to all of you. Yes?
So this is just a listening and response from all of you, hopefully. So basically saying, I think real talk, we gotta sort of fight media with different types of media, and given that people like us probably won't see the bosses in the media, folks at the top, and that's like maybe 50 or Jay, who's gotten to that point where they've also been controlling shit like that too, we probably won't do it. So given that we have to sort of fight media with media, I think that bringing back home to everybody the origins of hip hop appeals to everybody. I really feel deep down that it appeals to lots of people, including the DJs too. So I think like when people do things like blogging, they start their own blog to promote their own music, some social media, things like that, different places to promote music and different marketing techniques. And in a sense, we sort of have to strike a balance, find a middle ground, and maybe become a cultural capitalist in some respect, as far as marketing to get our messages across, even if it is being cutthroat against those people who's blabbering shit, because like that's all they know, or they're going for that money. So like, for the cause, I sort of see like, in a way, we sort of got to sharpen knives and everything and be super serious about promoting our stuff, even if it is sort of like knocking out competition for the folks that's doing this stuff right here. So like, for instance, there's an artist, I think you and I, or Unity, in the West Coast, Marcel Giallo, he bought houses off the songs. Houses that was foreclosed, bought them for a song or whatever, turned those into places where other artists can come do work, do galleries, stuff like that. He was balling it like that. What they was doing, he was doing that on a smaller scale, and it sort of became like a cultural district for his place. And I feel like, yo, meeting up with all the other DJs and the artists like that, and sort of making like a coalition, like we're gonna take back what we want. So as far as like, I feel you on occupying the radio stations and stuff like that. Having more of a stronger presence in our communities to where we're the ones holding the rallies again. And we're taking the people like, but like when Fiasco Friday happened or whatever, way back when, it's like, we know what happened with that album and everything like that. But people rallied around him and he had nothing to do with it. We in the communities, super duper visible, we can do that shit too, you know what I mean? So it's like, so I'm just trying to elicit a response. How y'all feel about like, I don't know, for real talk, like getting people, again, in the streets for the music and trying to pull that from maybe, if not the corporate sphere, from the people who's on the ground level, you know what I'm saying? For the money and things like that. How do y'all feel about adopting more of those techniques that were used against us, you know, to forward and promote our message? Because that have been people like who have sort of like hid some deep messages and something that might be shrouded in what might seem to be a pop type of shell as far as the sound of the music. People who do amazing type of promotion techniques, like Like for instance, Wiz Khalifa had his name on lighters that were slash beer bottle openers. That's all he raps about, but it's like a promotion, you know, in Pittsburgh. In a way, when we're gonna like just rep our city, let's get up out there and then still have our people in to where we're still the culture creators, we're still the culture representatives that we were back then. Because rapping and MCing is just another form of spoken word, another form of oratory, this, another form of being like, whether you're a prophet or whatever you want to call it, it's still that lane as an artist in general. So how do y'all feel? When do y'all want to like get up in that?
Well, I gotta say this to you in your response, and I think the crux of what you're saying is how to use parts of the model that's happening now to help what we're doing, and is that possible? And I think definitely it's possible, and the people who know it well are people who are successful at doing it. And I'm not mad at those people. As a matter of fact, I want to say this panel may seem like it is totally on that side, but it actually isn't, because I learned from Jay-Z. I learned from his understanding of business and his economic understanding. I learned from E40, I learned from Too Short, I learned from Swab House, I learned from Lil J, and I learned from, regardless of Master P, regardless of whether I think he's a good rapper or not. I learned from these people because of their tenacity at understanding how the model of turning what they're doing into more. Now, what I've also been, and what I think that what we have a lack of, is that we have to astutely study capitalism and know it the same way we know, Nicki Minaj song. We have to be able to do that, and the reason why we have to do that is because inside and out, we can become consumed and become capitalists. Yes, we use capitalism, and we have to. Why? Because we live in a capitalist world. Right, we got to use something, to make the lighter, make merchandise, right? But but I like to say the artists who you were talking about in California, who I'm not familiar with, who did the real estate thing and got the houses and then worked with other artists. The idea that you love, what I think you love about the idea is the socialist aspect of that idea more than the capitalist idea. The capitalist idea is that we have access to the resources, but the socialist aspect is we sharing the resources, which I think is the thing that we really need to be studying, and so that we'll know that when we become a Jay-Z, that we don't have to be hyper-capitalist at that point, that we've learned from the model, but we can then disengage from it, and when we're powerful, we create a new model. But we have to have that intention from the floor. We can't have that intention in no other way. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So and for that reason, I hope I've been clear. I'm gonna stop talking, but I have to say the last thing. I really like this panel, Steve. I really like this panel, but I hate this panel, and I'm gonna tell you why I don't like it, or why I hate it. It's because we really need an adverse point of view. We are all pretty much united. There's pretty much a united front in front of this. I think we could have learned from someone who was, a proponent of certain kind of system that I wouldn't be. And then the people in the room could then make an opinion about this could really be that battle of ideas. You understand what I'm saying? And so, because I think we could have learned from that. But that's just a criticism.
So that's for next time. That's a great point. That's a great point. All right, so we'll go here. I'm gonna get you guys. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
And let's keep our questions as concise as possible so we can get everybody in. And we gotta,
Real quick, when I was looking at the clip of your video at the beginning, I noticed that a lot of the footage, it seemed like it was in Italy.
Yes.
And I was just wondering what connections any of you might have to international hip-hop communities.
We're ambassadors of the world.
Yeah. Well, also particularly with regard to Italy, I was thinking about how there are hip-hop groups that are very connected to social centers and to independent radical radio stations, and they're working together and creating, more of a synergistic, stronger something out there, getting the music and the ideas out there together. And I didn't know if any of you were familiar with that or how you were connected with that.
And I'm going to speak real quick because M is just sparked me about, he just came off a tour, and that's where that footage from Rome, and we was watching it this morning in my house, and it was crazy. And it also shows what Esteban was saying, when you go overseas, the echo of the real music is still vibrant. They've been looking for information and truth in the music, the message, is very important. And that's because the politics and the people are very more advanced than ours. They're ready to fight the police if they got to. They're not scared. Like, we're scared in America. We talk a lot of shit, but when the police come around, we running our house and shit. The biggest thugs I know that got the biggest, I'm keeping 100. The biggest thugs I know that do dirty things, they got big guns and all that. When the police come around, they're nowhere to be found. So our level of progression as a society, we're just lacking. You know? So where we found our most love and our economics is overseas, international. Linking up with PREZ, one of the best things I could have done for my international swag. It allowed me the opportunity to go through a couple passports and be considered for real an ambassador of the world. Whether it be in Rome or Kenya, East Africa, we're welcome, and the level of oppression to disenfranchise people is the same shit going on. The hands that's beating down the people, the police got their foot on our neck. So a message of truth in a tight format of rap over dope beat, it really works. And internationally, they actually paying for that. Like they feel it that much. So we find ourselves a lot of times going overseas. Him has this great song that's out right now. You can check it out. He did it for the benefit of Palestine, and he did it with an artist from Palestine. I mean, who does this kind of shit? But international ambassadors, and we've been able to do it from the music, from telling the truth in the music. So we've grown alliances with cats like us all over the world, and that just echoes not only the power of the music, but the responsibility of the artist.
Okay.
Wait. One thing, and I gotta mention this, is that
I'm trying to keep you moving.
I know.
You guys go ahead.
I didn't want to say this because we talk about international stuff and only said a great deal, but I gotta mention one particular. I work with an artist from London who lives in London. His name is Low Key, and actually his manager's in the house right now. Her name is Nancy Mansour, and her sister is Shadia Mansour, who is the Palestinian duo who had me do the song Kufi Arabia, which means the Kufi is Arab, and let me say that it's my work with Low Key and Shadia that has really helped define a lot of the international work that I'm doing now. And thank you to Nancy, who's sitting in the back room, and anybody who doesn't know about Low Key, who has released a song Abomination Part 2 and Abomination Part 1, and anybody who knows that he has been in a huge struggle with the government of Great Britain for his rights, knows that we have to fight to defend his rights right now more than ever because he's under fire, and we're yet to see what the results of his resistance to oppression is. He's a fighter. He's a fighter who they are putting on trial, who have put on trial for being a resistor. So if you don't know about Low Key, and I also salute Nancy who's back to him. So that's some of the international stuff. So Low Key and Shadi.
Okay. All right, show me here, and then we'll come to one right front.
All right. I want to speak in defense of Nicki Minaj.
There you are. All right.
Let me take a drink first. The criticisms of Nicki Minaj that have come out from the panel so far. And one, you're criticizing the image that she portrays. I mean, granted. Umi, you were taking on, you're questioning a woman who was in the car listening to Nicki Minaj, and you're like, what's up with this, right? You know what she's about. And the doctor, you were saying that...
I never said Nicki Minaj.
No, but you were saying...
I try not to specify.
Representations of females in hip-hop is impacting female sexuality.
That's right.
Right? But out of all three criticisms, what was left out was boys and men. And in the sense that, gender is about gender relations, right? And I think progressive men in hip-hop should do less criticizing of women in hip-hop rather than starting to deconstruct their own masculinity within hip-hop culture. I think we should focus less on criticizing women that we may consider as progressive men to be putting out a negative image. And we should do more focus on questioning our own selves and our own roles in hip-hop and about taking on boys boys and sexual relations. And
Hold on, say that again one more time. Say that again one more time. You said we should do more. I just want to get it clear.
We should, as progressive men in hip hop, we should do less questioning of women in hip hop that we might consider to be putting out a negative image, such as Nicki Minaj, and more questioning of ourselves and our fellow men within hip hop, men and boys, and start deconstructing some of our masculinity that we have in hip hop culture. That's where our focus should be. I think the women can take care of the Nicki Minaj.
Can I just say, and I disagree totally. And I want to say it because it's important. This is a very important conversation. And it's based on the grounding of the separation. There's no separation in this hip hop thing. And actually, we need more women to come to the forefront, period. And it's not about making a personal attack on Nicki Minaj because she's a woman. It's about calling right and wrong, period. Now, if I don't want I have two nieces that are they're what? They're 13 and 11. Now this is why I can critique Nicki Minaj with the utmost negative, whatever I want to say, disrespect, because all I'm doing is showing what she presents to the world. And now I don't want my 11-year-old girl or my 13-year-old girl to have nothing to do with Nicki Minaj. It's important to me that, and the reason why it's important because Nicki Minaj, because she's a woman, she represents women, the mother of our shit, of our whole shit. Like, that's what the woman is. So it's like going into the household as a father, and you got a daughter and a son, and you're ignoring your daughter's movements, especially as it relates to sexuality and development, but you're spending all your energy with your son. It's unproductive for your family. It's unproductive for your family. No matter if you even got a mother in the household or whatever, I'm talking about as the father. It's very unproductive. So you got to look at hip hop like that as well. This is not a situation where you got women over here, men over here. Nah, this is, and it's being manipulated to the point where it's become this masculine bullshit and da-da-da-da. But that's the art of the world. Now, what we're talking about is a woman that's actively taking a position to represent women in hip-hop. It is my job as a politically informed black man to tell my black children that when I see them, what they shouldn't be attracted to. It's my job to do that. In terms of what I can control and what I see is right and wrong. Because I'm just me, my opinion. But it's very important that I voice my opinion as it relates to the sexuality of that young girl. Because that's going to control my future, my community. Because without her having that proper knowledge, she's going to fuck up the kid that she brings up. She's going to fuck up the next motherfucker she sleep with. And it's a cycle that's never, ever addressed. You know what I'm saying? So it's not about being negative to her because whatever. It's about us being active leaders and taking accountability to what happens when someone listens to negative lyrics or sees some bullshit based on, like even with Nicki. Did you know all her shit is fake? Like her ass to her nose to her titties. I'm just saying. No. It's important that we talk about that as my daughter, as my niece might not have developed titties. And she might be like looking at Nicki, and I gotta go into that and be like, look, baby, it's not about those titties. It's not. I mean, I'm just telling you, like that's how deep this goes. Like it is important that we don't sell ourselves short because we're trying to be correct or whatever.
But I don't think it's either or.
Right.
I think it's both. I think it's both. I think you can say these images are not positive images and these are not the images that we want our kids, our females to see, or our males to see. And I also think that when we talk about the power and using sort of the platform and having a different conversation about masculinity and what masculinity is. So I think you can do both. And when you talk about the idea of sexuality, I think that it's sending the wrong message to both genders at a young age when they're extremely confused. So we're seeing much more sex, but we're not having conversations about what sex means or all the components that sort of go hand in hand with that. So I don't see it as either or. I think it's got to be.
And you're right. But one last thing I wanted to say. One last thing is, Nicki Minaj this doesn't affect the young girls either. She has a big influence on the young men too. Like I mean,
Yeah.
just
That's what it's saying. See, and I want to like, because I really do like kind of want to take in where you're coming from because I want to be sharper. And I think what you're trying to do is sharpen our understanding about how we correctly lay criticism so that it goes the right way, or even understand how not to shut up when it's time to. And I understand that, and that doesn't matter. So I do listen to you carefully, and I do think that you're more so than what you're saying is like not to say something, which is about stuff, which is I think what people have talked about so far. I think you're thinking about is when to say something, and more than that, what I get from it, the crux of what you said is how to empower women and how to empower women to correct. And how to let women empower women, and which is important because that is very important in this time.
Yeah, definitely.
And but I like to say this: if not, then on the converse, if not us, then only women get to criticize Nicki Minaj. And if that's the case, then I think that I revert back to what they're saying. It's not one or the other. It's not. I don't think the job of bringing to light the contradiction of what Nicki means, not just because, and I don't even want to dissect her, how fake she is, because that was before now. Like, who she is in her body is not. I just want to say the representation. You know what I mean? You can be fake as a fire drill if you want to. I'm just saying who you represent to women. Who you represent to women. And so I think it's right. I think it's the job for men to support women. And women's right to do a criticism. You know what I mean? I think it's time for men to step out of the way and let women lead in the criticism. I think you're right, but I don't think that I should not have a criticism. I don't think I should not have it.
All right, this young lady.
Wait,
here-
hold on. Hey, hold on. Hey,
I know,
I'm just saying. I'm waiting for. I have. Please, I just want to get this out. I really want to get this out. I know. I'm sorry, bro. I gotta get this out. We've been talking so. I'm sorry. We've been talking so much about. I mean, in terms of like problem, where it lies, and how do we solve this? At the end of the day, like. All right.
I just gotta say what happened. I just want to say what happened is that they had their hand up and you went before them, and that kind of defeated this conversation about sex.
I will tell you. All right, so this is a challenge. Everybody has had their hand up at the same time. From the first question, all of you guys have your hands up. So I'm trying to distribute it as equally as I can. Now, what I've done is favor this side of the room. But I'm coming back to you, my brother. Trust me, just a little patience. We got a few more minutes. That brother there has had his hand up. These young ladies, so I'm just trying to be as fair as possible. So I'm going male, female. This young man as well. So go ahead, and I promise I'm gonna come back to you.
Hi, my name is Elisa, and hi, okay. And so I guess this conversation about Nicki Minaj, you can't really look at it in a hip hop vacuum. Like to me, Nicki Minaj is the same as Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, Britney Spears. You know, it's not something that's only in the hip hop community. And but you know, this idea of women need to come to the forefront, female MCs need to come up and whatever, and they need to be representing this viewpoint of conscious women. However, I think that if you look at hip hop now, it's very collaborative in the sense that, you know, people are putting on their friends, you know, producers work with other artists work with artists that are super male dominated. And I think that the reason you see Nicki Minaj and you see like other women sort of present themselves in a certain way is because that's the only space for them to come up. And I'm wondering about you guys as people with voices, as people that are in the hip hop world, what are you doing to put on female rappers?
There's an artist named Shadi Mansour. There's an artist who I think is one of the hottest female MCs in the game right now. Her name is Shadi Mansour. I did a record with her, and in which I only was able to chime in on her fantastic ideas with a few small ideas, and who taught me a lot about what her struggles are. And I have to say, that's what it's all about. I think is especially people who call ourselves conscious, so-called conscious, and I hate that word. But if it's bestowed upon me, conscious, if you're going to be conscious, is to know when to support or not support particular kinds of artists. And that's definitely where I find myself all the time. Women on my leadership have always been. This woman next to me led me into Palestine twice. I've never been. Twice she led me into, and under her leadership, I totally learned and gained. And that's where I put women in my life as leadership, not just because they're mama, but because they can give birth. But because it's time for leadership for women, and balance is right. You know what I mean? The time for the balance is right. So
I have a small company that I've been able to start. I'm doing a lot of stuff right now, but one thing I'm doing is called Humble Moments. We're bringing young artists to the table. Cats that don't have as talented as whatever, and they just don't have the resources and capabilities, maybe the drive, or sometimes just the basics, the studio, the know-how. So those are the artists that I'm looking for first and foremost, and the talent. But I found two amazing people. One is actually a woman and a man. Their name is Organic Love. I named them myself. It's dope. We just put a video out on them. You should Google them. But the woman is phenomenal. She's pretty much the head of the group, and I've been pushing them to do more hip-hop related stuff. They actually sing, but they write, she raps, but she's dope. So that's something we're doing directly, trying to help out. But I'm also working with this young girl. She's in high school, and we haven't gave her a rap name yet. Her name is Stephanie. She's dope. She's like 11th grader, and she's MC like her rap game speaks for itself. She don't have to put fake titties on and make people look at that. She can present herself through her talent. And I think there's a lot of women like that, but just like you said, unfortunately haven't had the opportunity. So as they unveil themselves, hopefully more people like us that can kind of, because unfortunately y'all are kind of speaking to the choir. Like we think about this shit all day. Our communities are pressed to the point where we try to do stuff on a constant basis to improve it. That's just what we do. That's what we're about. So, as it relates to the female quality in hip-hop, this is something that we've talked about for the last decade. And we've tried to address it as well by doing practical stuff, and bringing women into the game, to doing records with women, to just promoting, great music that comes from women. So, we're at it, but it's a battle, it's a non-stop battle that has to be addressed.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
I'm gonna get you right
earlier.
That's it.
What's up, brother?
Huh?
Yo, Preach, what's up, man? Give it 1 second.
You got 15 more minutes,
second,
bro.
bro.
Like 40 minutes, bro.
You see, everyone had their hand up, man. Hold on, we're trying to hear what you're saying, man. I want to answer your question. Can you be after him, please?
Yes.
Hey, yo, don't get so tight.
it's okay. We're gonna get it solved. It's okay.
We're not going nowhere near there.
We're gonna get it all solved in 1 minute.
All right.
I'm trying to make it fast. Be concise, Charlie.
I'm trying. Can we all agree that, you know what I mean? A voice is basically silent if there's nobody to listen. I mean, can we all agree upon that? Or in the next context, if a tree falls in the woods, I mean, if nobody's around to hear it, I mean, does it make a sound? Well, I mean, this is how I'm looking at it. We spend so much time critiquing the actual artists, the speakers, and we don't really, get into the listeners. And that's where it comes from. I mean, I'm the type of person where I'm going to look at a situation and I'm evaluate it, and I want to see where the root of the problem is. The root of the problem is stuff like, Jersey Shore, you know what I mean? Stuff that limits our ability to comprehend what we're taking in. Our attention span as a whole is getting a whole lot shorter. So when you have a shorter attention span, you're going to listen to shorter attention span music. You see what I'm saying? So we can sit down here and we can debate back and forth about, whether or not, underground music should be, more vocal, and, this is the angle at where hip hop is. I mean, to me, I'm so tired of this question, what is hip hop, where it is it dead or alive? I don't care about that no more at this point. It's just simply, we need to change our listening habits. And the only way we can change our listening habits, and again, it's the root of the problem, our attention span is getting smaller. If you look at movies, I'm into TV, film, and production. Now, an average scene is about 2 to 3 seconds, then it's quick, off to another one. So our brain constantly needs change because we can't focus on one single shot. So this boils down to hip hop.
Now, I'm thinking of it like this. You want to make an impact? If you want to make an impact, and I find this problem more with underground artists, and commercial artists seems to execute this well rather than the underground artists, and that's the fact that you may talk, I mean, a commercial rapper may say, you know what I mean, I'm talking about drugs, sex, wives, knives, all of that, but they talk about it from within the music. I mean, like as if they're actually living through it. I hear a lot of underground artists that talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And when I say talk about it, they talk about the oppression. They don't really, when I hear your lyrics, it doesn't signify the fact that, you know what, I woke up this morning and my job told me May 7th, all doors are going to be closed as a result of New York being so expensive. That's hitting me. I want to hear something about your day, like something that happened within your day. Not talk to me about, you know, the cops, the shooting, and the killing. We all know that. You see what I'm saying? I want to hear it from within the music, if you can understand where I'm coming from.
Of course,
you see what I'm saying?
I believe it's totally there. It's already. We made a song called Hell Yeah, which I got so much criticism for because we spoke from that exact vantage point of oppressed people who said, damn, we woke up, we broke today, and all we're trying to do is get something.
Right.
And you know, people in the conscious community criticized PREZ for making a song that talked about it in a way that would let people identify with it instead of having the preacher like, we should not and let's not. And I feel exactly the way you feel, and I want to say, it's not new, and there are hundreds and thousands of artists who have chosen the path of social consciousness who made great songs just like that, but you haven't heard it.
No, I did. You're absolutely right. I've heard. I probably haven't heard it, but I mean, again, like commercial artists are tending to execute this side of hip hop a little bit better than underground artists, and that's as a result of the glorification of sex, drugs, wives, and knives. But aside from that, what do you think about the initial statement that I made in terms of attention span and me listening to you and wanting to, you know what I mean? Just how do you deal with that problem?
Yeah, because this is what I've been trying to say. It just came around because what you just said is real important. People do have a short attention span. I'm thinking of 3 musicians in the music world. Because I grew up with music, and I've been playing music since 1971, okay? I'm sorry, I thought you would call it, no, I'm sorry, because you quoted me 5 times, but you never actually did call it. Okay, so anyways, so like I said, since the early 70s I've been involved in music, I heard a lot of things, and my dad's been a musician his whole life, so it's been going back to the 30s now. I'm talking about 3 people, Miles, Peter Tosh, okay? Actually, just 2. I'm going to boil it down. I'm trying to keep it short, okay? Miles, he did something really new, but from an old familiar place so he didn't scare people off. That's how he got the commercial success. He did that type traditional jazz really well. And from there, he got people to start to listen to some new stuff. Peter Tosh, he does a cover of Johnny B. Good. You know, all the white people, they know that song, you know, they like that. But he's doing it new. He's doing a reggae version of it. He's opening their minds a little bit to be more receptive to reggae. And that's a place where people that are looking for that bigger audience, that commercial, you can do that. You can always play that game of music. You can always quote from the classics and move away from the classic in your direction. You know, get your message out, but don't do it in a way that scares people off because it's so different, you know? And I think you're already doing that. I don't think that's an issue for you, but I'm just saying that's what how it happens.
I agree. And I want to, let me just say, and then I want to just comment on both of y'all, because y'all both made sharp points. And what you're saying, what Peter Tosh did, about 10 years ago, we created a chick named Aaliyah. She did a song called We Need a Resolution. And we're sitting around like, yo, what we need is a revolution. And we did that song over in the same thing with a bunch of other songs I was able to be around. And so what happens is, that does work. That works great. Now, the stuff you were talking about, you know, all of these rappers, what Emma said is such a valuable point because every time you were saying it, I'm like, well, I know about 15 people that do that, you know what I mean? But the bigger question is, why haven't you heard it? And why aren't you only hearing, or people, not just you in general, but the majority of people. And even foremost, cats flipping songs, that's going on. It's going on right now. But it's something, and what this actual panel was really about before we got so cooperative to talk about a few other things, it was about the ability for us to win back the ownership of hip hop, so to speak, which will allow us to introduce more stuff like that to the masses of people. Right now, you know how hard it is to get your music played in a way that the majority of the world hear it? I mean, it's very, very difficult. And it's not about one song either. It's almost like the president being made. It's a cat that watched that cat, grew that cat, made that cat sound like this, built with that cat, worked with that cat, then introduced the cat to this cat. It's just like that when it comes to making music. I mean, it sounds horrible because it is. I mean, it's really. And so when you look at all these, like she said, when you look at any call a rapper out, any rapper that came out in the last few years, I can attest where they came from, how they got into the game, who brought them into the game, and how they ended up where they're at. From any cat you can name, I can tell you this about them. You know what I mean? And it's very few cats that come around that's able to pop it off in different manners. But for them to sustain their stuff, they have to align with somebody. Because I was gonna say, even like Will Smith, he did a great job of coming out on his own. But he couldn't really sustain it. He linked up with Snoop to sustain it, and how he got his real love in terms of touring, in terms of making money, moving around, because he was big in Pittsburgh. But he wasn't big in the West Coast. Like, you know what I mean? Just to keep it 100 with you, he linked up with Snoop, and now he's go out to the West Coast, he can get 45 to 70 racks to do a show, and he's viable for himself and his family now. But it's because the coattail of another cat, you know what I'm saying? And it's so often like that in our game. And until we really become more check writers as a whole, and that means understanding our economics and our sense of appeal, like economically, because everything right now is financially driven. So until we get our bread up, we're not gonna be in that position. And that's bottom line shit right there, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, you made great points, and you're right about the attention span and shit. And I'm a movie man too, and it's doing it like that. But if a cat come out with The Godfathers, 3 of them motherfuckers, and they 2.5 hours long, and they that good as The Godfather, cats gonna sit there and watch it for the whole time. All 3 of them. That's 2.5, you know what I'm saying? So we have to become more creative about our approach to as musicians, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I agree with both of you guys, but it's something that's already been done. Because nothing new's under the sun. We're just trying to figure out a way to get our shit back, you know what I'm saying? So it ends up being a lot more.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna do one more question, and then I'm gonna have each of the panelists sort of give a final comment, final statement, okay? So this brother right here.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the
This
battle.
better be a good question, brother.
This is the way I see it. It is a battle. It's a battle of ideas, and it's a cultural battle. Okay. Right now, we was talking about hip hop and how that influences you. I'm gonna be honest with you. We rock to what relates to us, right? But unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that we relate to is very destructive within our community. But that's how we live, and we waking up, we getting up. That's what we see. We see somebody on TV, they talking about like, oh yeah, they talking about me. Now here's the thing. I remember on Paradise Gray, one of the founding members of the Baby Space. He told me one time he was talking about hip hop back in the day and how when everybody was wearing the gold chains, and everybody was getting stuck up for the gold chain. People were getting shot. People were dying for the gold chains and the diamonds. And he was like, man, you know. And the brothers in Africa are getting chopped up, working the mines and all this other stuff, you know, just because of capitalism and greed and the seduction of hip hop is crazy, and we'll get back to that anyway. And the people and the minds of people when it comes to music. So he said, well, you know what? They got together. He said the brothers got together, and they started stepping to these MCs and these artists who was out there. And they was promoting all the gold and all the jewelry and all the flags. Said, brother, on some brother to brother stuff, you need to take that over. Because we catching hell from both sides. We catching hell in Africa. Our brothers in Africa are getting hell for mining the mines, for the jewelry, and the brothers are getting murdered here in the streets for wearing it. So the whole conversation has to change. And they started banging on these MCs. They started banging on these artists, saying, hey, you come in, you gotta take that off. Boom. So then you can't just tell somebody to take something off. You gotta provide them an alternative too. That's when the medallions started coming on. Let's be a little bit more unified with the brotherhood, and we're gonna start wearing medallions, and we're gonna start talking about unifying the communities and working within the communities and helping, right? But this is the thing I'm seeing with hip hop and a lot of art forms. A lot of artists do come with that in politics too. A lot of people come with their intentions in organizations too, non-profit or whatever, grassroots organizations, whatever. They come with their intentions. Hey, listen, we're gonna help the community. Then they start throwing money, start seducing them with capitalism, start throwing the money at them, and start seducing them. How do we help How do we fight against the seduction of capitalism in all forms within every culture? Because that's what's happening. That's what happened is the seduction of the lifestyle, the seduction of the luxury, the seduction of the woman. You know, there's a spiritual drought. It's fueled by poverty and fear. And until we address capitalism as a whole, the rims, the spinning, it's an attention span thing too. But like I said, we're going to rock to what we relate to. And if I can relate to it, I'm going to listen to it all day. And we have to start meeting these kids what turns them on, the initiatives, what they see, and we have to provide alternatives. We can't just tell somebody, stop banging, and you have no alternatives for them. Put down your flag, but you still got problems with everybody else in his neighborhood, then what? Then what?
Let me answer the question.
So I just wanted to get a feel on the ideas of what we're going to do, on how we're going to fight this cultural war, because that's what it is.
I think that's a great sort of basis to wrap up the panel. So that's a great point. So why don't each one of you guys address that as you give your final statements. We can start with you, Esteban.
Okay, well, so no, I think that was a very good question. I feel like I think that just to take it back to the question that was being asked before, I feel like there is a network that exists across the country. Like in the last panel, I was saying how I've been a union organizer, I've done different types of organizing traveling around the country. And the fact is that M and Umi had links with me in every hood across America that I went to. Like when I went to Watts, well, not Watts, that was my people. But like in Colorado, like Portland, Oregon, like I've been all over the country, like organizing for the union. And every time I would get somewhere, I would call them up and be like, yo, I'm out here, I don't know nobody, I got me a rental car and da da da. They would give me the link. I would be in line there. And I think the point that I'm making with that is that we're talking about like really building an organic movement, but that has to, it's person by person. The brother with the, they just asked questions. I mean, they was talking about the other musicians. Like they're saying, they've been doing that. I know plenty of people from throughout the country, throughout the world that are doing exactly what you're talking about. And the problem is getting them heard by everybody. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're dealing with, but that is definitely out there. And I think in general, again, what you're saying, that's the problem with capitalism. That's the flaw of capitalism. That the fact is that we workers are the ones who create all the wealth, and the capitalists are the ones that take it away. Like anything that you see that's riches, anything that's nice, it was produced by a person, a working person who probably can't even buy the thing back. So why the workers want everything else? Why do they want the best things? We produce the best things. If I produce the biggest screen TV, why shouldn't I have that in my house to watch? Why shouldn't my kids be able to watch that? That's what that's why people want. People want what they produce. They want to have access to the world of things. And I think that what we find is that when we are able to control our production, when we are able to produce on our own terms as workers, that's when you see the most beautiful forms of art. That's how hip hop was born. We were kind of left in desolate communities, but we were able to make our own thing, and this is what came out of it. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, to me, it's all about building up this network across the country. It's not going to be as big as Hot 97 and all that, but that's why the simple fact is that we can't say fuck Russell Simmons. We can't say we can say it, but we can't like actually, like if we by doing that physically, what we're doing is we're turning our back on all the people who are listening to that and they're feeling like, this is what's speaking to me. Maybe that does speak to them, all that stuff that's being said, but on the other hand, I know if I get up there and I get to talk to them about the 3 people who just got killed in the Bronx the same time that Russell Simmons was going around down to Wall Street getting photo ops with kids, I feel like that's going to speak to them. What do you mean, Russell? This is what you mean by you want to help the young people? Going, nothing against Occupy Wall Street, that's what's up, but brothers just got killed in the hood you're supposed to be representing. And you ain't saying nothing to them. You're talking about this is how you helping young people. I think that's what the problem is. So it's like we have to demand that these structures that exist, these institutions that exist, speak for the masses, speak for the 99%, but let's get it right. They the 1%. The only way for us to realize our power is going to be by organizing this 99%. And what that means is that there are people doing all this stuff, controlling their own work, but that means we need to patronize them. we need, you know, we need to buy from them. That's who we need to break that with. So I mean, that's my way of ending, man. But I think everybody's listening. I have one more thing to say. One more thing I had to say before I finish was that as a part of my development in life, it's been where, you know, Vill, M1, Umi, the doctor, has been a part of my, because like when I was a teenager, and like I was saying before, I got started, a lot of my work was around police brutality. This brother was in the New York Times. He was from a couple avenues over from me. He had did a song about police brutality that was up in the New York Times. You know, so this is when the same people that, you know, if I was hustling in front of my building, they wouldn't say nothing. They was like, damn, you crazy, you handing out pamphlets? You know what I mean? I knew that one of my neighbors was doing this stuff. That propelled me forward. You know, I had heard about PREZ, I had heard about their music and all that. I started having demonstrations in my neighborhood. We started having meetings, all that type of thing. I met M1, I met Umi, and they became lifelong friends of mine. That pushed me forward. That says, you know, I'm not a, you know, an artist, but you know, I'm a hood celebrity. I'm a activist. That's a, you know what I'm saying. That's next to art. You know what I'm saying. That's my craft. And so I think that the more that we're able to use synergy, the more that we're able to kind of, when you see something that does represent what you're talking about, you got to help that, man. You got to flourish it, you know, and let it do what it does.
I mean, I can only just go back to, what's your name again? You know, going back to what he was saying, I mean, you know, the questions you got, I mean, to me, they're very strong questions, and, you know, as far as, like, you know, he made an example, you know, people dropping their flag or whatever. I mean, to me, none of that's ever changed, you know what I'm saying? To me, that's always been a place. The difference is, just to get back to what we're talking about taking this hip-hop shit back. You know what I'm saying? The difference is back then, hip-hop wasn't as controlled as it is now. It was innocent, it was coming up, it was growing up. Now it's like probably the toughest genre of any music in the world. It wasn't like that at first. It wasn't even a category in the Grammys until like Will Smith, right? Will Smith or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say is that none of that's changed. I mean, the only thing that's changed is the gangs and the colors of the flag. You know what I'm saying? But what's changed is just that voice. You know what I'm saying? We had the public enemies. And, you know, told you, yo, don't do this, don't do that. They were successful at it. Now it's almost impossible to be successful because it's control. It's really no, you know, so I mean, as far as, and I don't want to measure success by the radio. I mean, if you want to measure it by the radio, as far as you could be playing on.
Measure by the hood, family.
Yeah, and my hood knows me. But my hood is a small speck in the whole world. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I could do when I'm on the resume. So, I mean, I'm trying to say, I mean, you know, not to get off, but I mean, that's all I can do. I'm just one artist, you know what I mean? To me, as an artist, the only thing I can do with my words is inspire and motivate. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, everybody else is responsible for themselves. I can't, you know what I mean? But I believe that I can't change maybe 1 million people, but maybe one cat. Because I know there's plenty of cats, even in my own hood. I think it starts with that. I've had to tell them, yo, you know, these cats right here in this block, they're greasy, you know, they win. Don't do this, don't do that. And I've had these cats come back years later, like, telling me, yo, you know what I'm saying, suited up with the tie, the shirt, like, yo, that shit was real talk what you gave me, man. You know, because something ended up happening. I ended up predicting what the hell was going to happen. So, I mean, that's all I could do with my music, you know what I'm saying? And I think, I mean, that's always been the formula, unfortunately. You know, no matter what we do, the violence is still going to be there because it's beyond hip-hop. It's not hip-hop. We can have, that's a whole different subject, you know, as to why all the violence is being perpetuated, you know, in our neighborhoods. But, you know, hip-hop has a big hand in it. So what I'm trying to say, you know, me as a hip-hop artist, I know everybody's attention spans is different, you know, they got smaller brains, smartphone age, you know what I'm saying? You got everything at your fingertips. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's all I really got to say. Me as a rapper, I mean, I can only say what I feel, you know what I mean? And, you know, that's basically it.
honest, when I think about hip hop, I think about media, I think about all of it, and I think about youth. I think each of us has an individual responsibility to open our mouths and to have difficult conversations with young people. Because I think that's the only way that those things are going to change. Now, I will say that contrary to popular belief, attention spans aren't changing. They haven't gotten shorter. We've become convinced or sort of fooled by this idea of super efficiency, and we played into that. Our attention span, by research, by measures, that hasn't changed. So be willing to have those conversations because I think we can have a lot more impact than we think we can.
Okay, so listen, folks. Umi and them, the next panel is here and they're trying to get us out. Can we continue the conversation outside?
Nice.
And I hate to put it off like that. But